Alright, so we're back once again, and today we're going to be doing something I haven't really covered before. You know, I've done videos on determining what the hardest grind is in the game, and I've done videos on what I consider to be the actual hardest ships to grind through. But I've never actually delved into, is it actually worth it to grind from tier 1 to tier 10 on a particular line? Outside of the explicit, like, enjoyment of playing the game, is it actually worth it to aim for that, you know, that Kremlin, that Conqueror, that Minotaur, that whatever you kind of have your mind set on and grinding. So that's what we're going to discuss today. And so I did a little bit of digging, and I looked through a couple of the tech tree lines, and I decided for both the ease of myself data gathering and maybe to make it more interesting for people, I decided to pick the Kremlin as the kind of the model for kind of describing this grind. And I want to put a couple of stats and statistics to it to actually give some color on how much time you actually have to spend to actually get it to your 10. And now I say, you know, I just lay out the statistics here, but at the same time there's kind of like a psychological aspect to actually grinding that can be quite tiresome, quite annoying, and quite unfun. So I don't actually spend too much time, you know, actually considering that in this video. This is more kind of just like, here's the facts, here's how long it's actually going to take, and then you can add that on as a little bit of a tax at the end, if you can call it that. So let's actually get into it. So you want to go from the Bogatar, basically, I think it's a tier 2 Russian cruiser, to the Kremlin, the tier 9 Russian BB. And now the Kremlin's obviously a pretty strong ship, shall we say, and so that's mainly the reason why I picked that, because I think a lot of people actually want to go for that ship. In the end, that's kind of like one of the strongest ships in the game, tech tree ships in the game, Smolensk. So with that being said, what I did is I went through the entire ship line. I totted up all the modules, and I totted up all the ship costs, and I summed them, and then I decided to convert that into how many days it would actually take to grind the overall ship altogether. Now keep in mind that you will at the same time be grinding, you know, credits and XP at the same time, so take that into consideration too. So you won't actually, you'll be doing two things at once, but at the end of the day it's going to be quite a while. Oh, and one thing I forgot to mention is that in my video, the hardest grind in World of Warships, I forgot to include the modules, so I will be covering that this time for this particular line, so keep that in mind. Alright, so let's get into it. So from going from tier 2 all the way to tier 10, the Kremlin, it's going to take you 74,365,000 credits to get the Kremlin. Now to put that into perspective, shall we say, because millions of credits, you don't really get an idea of how many that actually is. So what I decided to do is take an average of, say, let's say per game, if you get, if you have premium, then you'll easily get this amount. Otherwise, I think this is a fair amount to get for an average player per game. So let's say you get 100k credits per game. You know, you get like 70 to 80k damage, so getting 100k credits shouldn't really be all that difficult, especially at lower tiers. So if we assume that to be true, then based on my calculations, it's going to take you 743.65 games to actually get enough credits to buy the entire line, modules included. Now if we convert that to time, each game's obviously 20 minutes long. Now some games might be shorter, some games, you know, you might take a little while to load in, so it's going to be a little bit longer, but I think overall on average it's going to be maybe 20 minutes, give or take. So with that, I decided to multiply the 743.65 by 20 minutes, and what that came out is 14,880 minutes of actual gameplay, not time spent browsing around the client, not time spent at your actual computer. That's just time playing the game, getting the credits. And now if we convert that to hours, it's going to be 248 hours of just pure playing time. And then obviously if we do the further calculation, in which most people will actually be able to kind of connect with, that's 10 days. That's actually over 10 days, but I decided to round down just to be a control freak. 10 days of just pure gameplay to get that ship is insane. Well, is it insanity? I don't know, because I would have to go and compare it against other games. So maybe I shouldn't say it's insanity. But just from a pure time perspective, that's a hell of a lot of time. Now that's saying if that's the fundamental assumption is you're getting 100k credits per game. Now that's for some people that can be very difficult, so this number could be inflated quite a bit, or for some people that's really below what they actually get usually, so this number is a bit deflated. So take that into consideration. Now the other aspect of this is that there's an XP grind, obviously. So now if we do the same thing for the XP, what we see is that to get from the tier 2 Bogota to the Kremlin tier 10, it takes 883,000 XP overall. Now there's an interesting thing that happens here is that when we look at the number of games taken, and I'm going to use an average XP of around 1,000 XP. Again, I'm kind of thinking to myself that's a little bit on the high side for maybe if you're a new player, but if you're experienced, I don't think it's too unreasonable. And plus it keeps calculations simple to an extent too, so you're not actually it's not getting into decimal places and decimal points all that much, so it's very easy to follow. That results in about 883 games to get the XP required to actually get the Kremlin. And this is where it gets kind of interesting too for me, because it takes 883 games to get the Kremlin, the XP required, but it takes 743 games to get the credits required. Assuming both these fundamental assumptions, you get 1,000 XP a game and you get 100,000 credits per game, remain true. So it's kind of interesting that the XP takes longer than the credits. And because you're doing both these at the same time, you're going to end up having more than enough credits before you need actually have the ability to buy the ship, which is really interesting. And I suppose that could flow over into other ships. I know when I was grinding the line, I was very tempted just to buy other lines, which actually slowed down my overall grind of a particular line a hell of a lot. But I suppose that's just kind of maybe a strategy used by Wargame just to kind of, I don't know, keep you playing for longer. But I don't know, I'm not sure. So 883 games. If we're going to convert that into time. So as a result, that's going to be, assuming 20 minutes per game, it's going to be 17,660 minutes, which results in 294 hours. I can't read my writing, but yeah, quite a bit more than the actual credit grind. And now if we convert that into days, it's 12.26 days. 2 extra days of pure playtime. Actually more than 2 extra days of pure playtime. 2.25 days of extra playtime, which is really significant. Again, I'm going to have to do further analysis to see how this compares with either other lines or other games. But yeah. And again, I want to preface this by this whole analysis stands on the assumptions that you get 1,000 XP per game, or you get 100,000 credits per game. If you alter those, the numbers could be significantly different. But yeah, putting it into perspective of just 10 days or 12 days of pure playtime really kind of surprised me to an extent. So let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all that stuff. And I'll see you in the next one.